Hello everybody, and welcome to one more video on big units. And this time let's see a battle, the Battle of Hastings, 20mm again. And this thing is possible, at least to me, because of the release many years ago of those two very famous boxes of Revell. It is not one of those battles that I would have done if there wasn't this cheap and available boxes by Revell released. I don't want to lie to you, but maybe in the 80s. So there is a box of Saxons that you can see several of them here. And there was a box also of Normans. Both boxes had some archers. The Saxons were only foot, some armed with the Danish axe, and so suitable for the housecarls, and also some thags and some third militia. The Normans had a big problem. That's why I somehow stalled this project, because there were two mounted figures on each box. You can see the horse rearing here with a very beautiful spear-armed knight like this one here. But the two horses were rearing in a very strange position. There were only two, so if you wanted to build some 30, 40 knights for a proper representation of the Normans, you'd have to have something like 15, 16 boxes, and then you have hundreds of foot soldiers that you wouldn't need. There was this problem with the Norman box, and so the project kept being stalled, kept being delayed. I built a few stands of Saxons, but this Norman, French, and Breton host was only made maybe in a row some 2-3 months ago. You can see also some pictures of them in the blog. So let's go a little bit to the battle. Battle is a very interesting battle. Everybody heard about it, of course. Not only English people. It's a very famous battle because the Normans, first they were ex-Vikings, as everybody knows. French kings managed to give them Normandy for them to stop attacking France. So they couldn't attack south. They went north. And then, of course, William got some Pope's hate. You have here the Pope flag here, and with support of the Holy Christian Church, he gathered some of his soldiers, plenty of mercenaries. In fact, not some of his soldiers. I think he took virtually everyone that he could fight from Normandy, and he attacked England. So under the cause of being the successor of the throne. Another pretender of the throne was obviously, and I mean it was. I don't want to enter into those political issues, but Harald, of course, the king of the Saxons, said the same. So a clash was unavoidable. So the Norman army gathered. These ones are French and Flemish mercenaries. He also got the aid of the from Bretons here, led by Odo here of Bayeux, Bishop Odo of Bayeux, and it's obvious host of Normans. And William went for the conquest of England. The Saxon army came from the Battle of Stirling Bridge, very costly battle against the Vikings. So the army got to its defensive position a little bit busted, and they had to face then a second battle a few days later, which is this battle here, Battle of Hastings. There is also a very funny story about where the battle is, if it is Caldeck Hill or the other one was Senlac Hill. I mean, I'm using here Caldeck Hill, but I'm not really sure where the battle was. I mean, there is a very big buildings and things like that built on top of the first place where the battle was thought to have happened. But recently, Caldeck became a more feasible place for the battle. The battle was an action between essentially an infantry armed force using the shield wall tactic. So defensive positions, strong defensive position, and then eventually a counterattack if the attackers were broke. broke not without money. I mean, broke in their intentions, of course. I hope I'm making myself clear. And the attackers were having some advantages. There were no numerical advantage, funnily enough, of the Normans. Normans were even, it is thought to they were a little bit less than the Saxons, as you can see here. There are 15 stands, 15 impetus stands, 15 or 14 impetus stands for the Saxons, and 3 more of skirmishers, 14 of heavy infantry, and 3 more of skirmishers, so a total of 17. And you have here 15 stands for the Normans. So a slight disadvantage, even if, of course, the Normans had the advantage of a more balanced army. Saxons were exclusively armored infantry, or heavy infantry, if you want to call it. Some of them not that armored, because the second line was the third militia with virtually no chainmail, and much less well equipped than the housecarls and the Saxons, or even then apparently than the Litzman, the mercenaries coming from Scandinavia. And on the other side, the Saxons had plenty of archers. They had also heavy infantry as the Saxons, but the weapon that will be apparently decisive will be the cavalry, which the Saxons didn't have. The idea was to attack head-on the Saxon position, inflict plenty of casualties, eventually eliminating the best troops, the housecarls, and then forcing the third to come to the front, and then, as they were militia, eventually routing them. But William was gambling very high. And then there is that famous ruse in which this part of this Breton side attacked to this corner of the Saxon line, then retreated with casualties. The Saxons came after them, and then the Saxons enveloped and destroyed that part of the line. Eventually, this ruse was used more than once during the battle, and eventually the coup de grace, of course, was the killing of Harold with one of the specialities of the one of the factors that is different in the Norman side, which is the archery. Apparently, one arrow killed in the eye, struck in the eye, Harold, and killed him, which made the Saxon army to be routed and the Normans to win the battle. Let's go a little bit to the miniatures. You can see on the Saxon side, for instance, you can see here some thegns here, chainmail and spears. You can see here the housecarls with the Danish, terrible Danish two-handed axe, and the Litzman, the Nordic mercenaries, which is also a good beginning for a Viking group. The third is the most is the biggest pleasure of building a at least to me, building a Saxon army. Let me try to find them. Because one of the things that are introduced into these lines, for instance, let's check this one here. They are some of the latest. And look, I placed plenty of Robin Hood with new shields and new weapons. I converted, you can see several of them. Oops, let's try to focus a little bit better with some more light. You can see here the Robin Hood mixed with the Revell figures, even some archers. I mean, that eventually took place in the line of the third, and with those simple shields that they have, I think they make a very comfortable, I can call it comfortable group. I have several of these third groups, bases, stands, whatever you want to call it, made with Robin Hood and some more here, and Revell figure mixed. So this is the idea for the famous standard bearer of the Saxon. You see here another one. Here there is a Litzman, clearly Viking style standard. Now for the much more tricky Normans. Normans. For instance, let me show you this one, this group here. So as you can see, this is the original, for instance, knight. And next to it there is one of the original knights, and all the other knights that you can see here are all foot soldiers and then with the help of fire. Their legs are a little bit spread out, I think I can say like that, right? And they were placed on top of Italeri horses from several, and even Airfix horses from several of their boxes, which makes a very pleasant group. I mean, some of them became armed with spears, others with swords, as in fact apparently they were. More to the front there were of course spears, and then to the other rows there were sword, which is more or less I think what happened. So 8 cavalrymen to a stand. If you look at the shields, they're not painted; they're just photocopies that I retouched from several sites of where the Norman colored shields were. They were just printed and then glued. Of course, they have to be resized, and then they were glued to the shields, to the original shields. Another thing that I did in order to have shields, for instance, if you, I think the Normans are more or less, they had big shields, big kite shields, so that there was no such problem. But for the foreigners, I'll show you later. Let me just finish the Norman group. So everything is Revell, as you can see, and archers are also, most of them, not most of them, all of them are also Revell. Some of them are even coming from the Saxon box. Apparently, there wasn't a big difference between the recruitment of both sides on this aspect. Now for the other groups, not the let's see the French. And for instance, so the French had, as far as I could understand, eventually hidden chainmail under their vests. So I used here Italeris from several boxes, also the Crusaders, Templars, etc. I used the figures that were appropriate for this period of mid 11th century. Horses are more or less the same, coming also from several strelets and things like that. Some leftovers, Italeri, but figures are mostly Italeri, if not all. And colored shields, so a little bit similar to the Normans, with slight differences that I think are the main differences. And if you look at the Breton contingent, you see much more plain shields. That is the difference. I think Bretons had more simple designs for their shields, so this is the difference I used on them, but the build-up was the same. Now for their infantry is virtually the same. So this is Italeri again. I didn't use here many armored figures coming from several boxes of foot soldiers from Italeri, some flags, and I think it gives a very funny movement. The French and Flemish, I mean, I think I didn't make them that much different. And the archers of both Flemish, French, and Bretons are the same as the the Normans. One last word for William, one of the rearing horses of Revell. I mean, and here he is, the man. So this is the Battle of Hastings, and was a very funny project. As I told you, I mean, if probably I would have never done this if these two boxes weren't released by Revell. Funny project, not a big one, but even so, very interesting, which forces me also to read about this period of English history. I have many leftovers of them, so both sides have gave me a shoebox filled with extra figures. So I'll use them probably in the future for crusades, eventually peninsular warfare between Christians and Moors and Arabs. So eventually, I don't know, I will keep them, and maybe in the future I can show you something else. So I hope you have enjoyed, and see you next in another battle or in another big army. Bye bye.